our objective with the wedge selector tool on Vokey.com was to how do we take the floor of purchase up, right? So there's the pinnacle, and then there's the floor.
I look at them as a pyramid, triangle, whatever you do, or
so
umbrellas that cross
if we can elevate the floor, we're going to help more people. And so that's what we think the wedge selector tool does. It at least guides you so that we can increase the number.
We look at it like this. The MyGolfSpy Most Wanted test is the common test for the masses, right?
Yeah.
Then you have a True Golf Fit thing, which is a tool like that, which is an artificial kind of intelligence based on real data and real swings. So we have our crossing overs as well. But I still think for the overall, how do you identify the best performing wedge for every individual golfer in a massive test? I don't see a way to do it in under 6 months with human testers.
Well, is this not an opportunity to use Most Wanted as kind of like a platform to educate golfers in the importance of getting fit
like
for the right wedge?
It brings the floor up. We are doing better than a guy hitting 5 shots on YouTube and telling you, hey, this wedge is sick, dude. You know?
Right.
Like, so you can point at us and go, hey, your wedge test's not that great. And I go, well, look behind me because there's a lot of worse shit going on behind me.
Yeah.
I'm here to make it better. We just don't really know how to make it that much better. And we've talked to some really, like, Redditor actually has the best wedge test in my opinion.
I've seen his protocol.
Yeah, he gives basically like 11 different scenarios.
And I'm like, it's pretty fascinating.
I'm like, that sounds about right, but
totally.
By the time we got the SM7s done, you'd be on the SM9s.
No, that's great if you're a single company developing a single product.
Right.
But when you're now comparing everybody's products head to head.
And you got 15 brands who all come to the table. And that's why my question of, are we trying to identify the best performer or are we trying to identify how to best buy a wedge?
Like I said, not the best way to buy a wedge. We're definitely not doing that because that's more of the online tool. In my
or how to buy the best wedge for me, right? Because I think identifying the best performer is a different scenario than how to identify the best wedge.
Then maybe you do this.
For
maybe
the
you do a
mass
test
of
like we
golfers.
do, right? But then there's an educational tool as a part of it and go, hey, if this Vokey was your best wedge, the number one wedge, then here is a tool to help you find the best Vokey wedge for you.
Or I think that makes a lot of sense. I also love, like I said, the way you guys wrote it this year. I really appreciated the perspective you brought, which is, hey, you should go get fit. You know, you guys were very transparent of this is the test, and I love that you're transparent about these are the good things about the test, these are some of the limitations about the test, and this is what it is. We think it's great. We think it's better than everything else out there. And oh, by the way, if you're going to go buy these now, here's how you should do it.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's a nice way to pitch
I think the combination could
the way
be good,
you do it.
where you wedge a test for wedges in with a tool.
Well, and I think have a perspective around what everyone brings to the table because everyone brings something different to the table. Like I said, I think what we bring to the table is a set of grinds built over the years that I think we can better fit most people. I think that's a strength of our brand, and I think that's part of the buying process. That's part of why we have success. Is I think most people feel like when they walk into a mass merchant store off course and they see a rack of wedges, one, it's probably a little intimidating. What do I choose? But two, I also think there's a belief that, you know what, I can find the right wedge for me as opposed to if we just offered a single grind.
The average guy hits 3 balls, and if you hit 3 good ones, that's the grind he thinks is good for him.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So it's no different than a guy that hits a putter and knocks 3 putts out. This is my new weapon. You know?
Well, and that's the thing too, because either the one you hit best 3 times or the grind you think looks the coolest, right?
Harry just hit the title sign, right? He gets, what, 2 shots with it?
He wants it.
That's a guy that works for my golf.
He hasn't even finished the driver test and he wants a PXG driver already.
And he's a good player.
And he's a good player. So now you're taking a guy that works for my golf spot, a good player, knows equipment, and still buys based on nothing.
But he'd go get fit, right?
No, we would hope so.
Shit. My golf spot, he was an All-American.
Well, that is always eye-opening, isn't it?
Yes, and he's gained 40 yards.
He was playing blades in college.
Sure.
We got him playing split set now.
Okay.
Yeah, these guys were all college players. None of them got fit, and all of them added 40 yards and dropped their handicap.
Now, granted,
swings 17 miles an hour faster now.
I was going to say, Sam also picked up about 10 miles an hour plus a swing
17.
speed.
how come I haven't gotten better then?
You got to work at the facility. Back to the test. I would love to, at the end of the day, we're just trying to get the best test. Whether that gets help from Titleist or Cleveland, whoever, we don't care.
And it's, look, everything else has had input from
Well,
but you can't look at it from a single company's perspective, and go, hey, we've got the best product, because that's where everybody's coming from.
Your advantage, is the grinds, right?
Totally.
All right, so how do we balance the fact
Well,
that
that's my goal. My goal is always to come at you with admit I'm biased. I'm the Vokey guy. That's my job. My job is to be biased for Vokey. 2, try to admit that I appreciate when you guys come to the table and try to be as transparent as you can be. And then 3, highlight what we think is important for a golfer. Our North Star is to help you, the golfer, hit better wedge shots. Period. Hard stop. And my view would be, if you're trying to identify the best wedge, that's what it should do. The best wedge should help me hit better wedge shots. Hard stop. Period. And so,
well, that's a big line. Okay, so like we are identifying strokes gain wise clubs that perform better for certain swings. That's a fact, right? But could we get better and make that even? Yeah,
totally.
But you're saying hard stop on making you hit better wedge shots. We are making people hit better wedge shots, we think, but are we making them hit the best wedge shots? There's no way.
That's a great point. Yep, I think that's a totally fair point. And then that's where, and I would say, coming from a multi-brand perspective, the world seems to agree that multiple sole grinds are value add in wedge play. There's not a single brand out there that has a giant chunk of either amateur or tour or otherwise presence that doesn't offer sole grinds.
But is the grind the reason for that? We don't even know.
Tour players, 50% of the tour players are playing our wedges. 50% of the wedges in play are our wedges. So if I just look in our little universe of 50% of the wedges in play on tour, where, all right, why they're there is a variety of reasons, but our grinds are literally a third in our sand wedges. So that suggests to me that they add value. I get it. You guys have the category's hard. As you said, the test is just super huge if you let every variable come in. And so my point about the single grind was, it's probably on me to understand how you're going to go about your next test and make sure that what I'm sending you is appropriate. And so that's
totally your fault.
Totally.
I mean, we wish more companies paid attention to that. You'd be shocked at how many don't.
That's the thing.
They
that
just
kills me.
send in,
We-
don't say anything.
We have to pay attention.
I don't know if Sam even
I'm not
does
joking.
anymore. But we,
I totally
because
believe
if not, then it's not a fair test overall.
Well, and this year we went with the best sellers. And when we compare best sellers to custom fit, if we look at the numbers side by side of what volume sells the most, and for example, what wedges are most fit at TPI, there's some crossover, but it's not 100%. We see a favoritism towards more bounce, and so I'd probably send you more bounce next year, because in a stock environment, just buying off the rack,
F&D.
people tend to grab lower bounce because they think that's what they need, or they think, oh, I need more versatility, or there's a variety of reasons why people tend to trend that way. And then when you go hit them blind, they tend to end up in more bounce.
We talked about like left arm, right arm to try and figure out if there's anything that correlates with the angle of attack, right? The idea that, if you hit better shot, if you're, have a guy take one-handed shots, right? What does an angle of attack look like for a guy who feels like or can show that he hits better shots with his right hand than his left hand, right?
To identify a grind,
Right, as a starting point anyway for something it's not perfect.
Interesting.
but-
shallow, steep.
Right. I mean, right.
No doubt.
Digger driver.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think that's like I think that's a really good. And I love that you guys are identifying that, hey, we can continue to get better. That's all. That's the win.
It drives our readers crazy because it's like, well, you're doing it differently this year. And I'm like, well, yeah, because we have a choice. We can either draw a line in the sand and say, this is where we are and we're going to stay here, and it doesn't matter how much smarter we get. We're not going to evolve from
We have
this
always
point.
said, once we become smarter, we will implement it in the test. And if that means we change the entire test because we got smarter, we're not going to stay dumb.
Love that.